Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, to sage Narada and all other sages and saints, and to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. So today we are currently studying Narada Bhakti Sutras, and we will be studying Sutra number 72 from chapter number 4, Glory of One-Pointed Devotion. Commentary is by my Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let's get started. Sutra 72, chapter number 4, Glory of One-Pointed Devotion, Narada Bhakti Sutras. The sutra is Nasti Teshu Jati Vidya Rupa Kula Dhana Kriyadi Bhedaha. Again, Nasti Teshu Jati Vidya Rupa Kula Dhana Kriya Adi Bhedaha. So it's a very profound sutra. It says there is no distinction among them, the devotees, based upon class, knowledge, learning or scholarship, beauty, family, wealth, occupation, etc. Meaning, the devotees who enjoy para-bhakti have gone beyond all worldly distinctions. Just as rivers, they lose their identity, names, forms in the ocean. In the state of divine communion, all differences are lost. Even those who have not yet attained the state of para-bhakti should not practice discrimination based upon worldly qualifications of family, beauty, class, scholarship, profession, and the like. And it's very important for many of us. Many people get sucked in. They think they are devotees, but then these worldly values start creeping in. Any discrimination that is practiced on the basis of these is condemned by the devotional texts and is considered one of the many offenses from which the aspirant must refrain. Otherwise, it's considered an offense. And it is so amazing that in today's religion and sex, there are so many of these offenses committed by so many so-called spiritual leaders, and the whole sect itself is committing that offense without even knowing it, and they think that they're doing a very holy thing and that they're touching God by all these things. But no, not according to sage Narada and the scriptures. So for serious aspirants, if we are serious aspirants, let us look at these 17 offenses and make sure that we don't contribute to that problem, that we become true devotees if we want to achieve para-bhakti. So to consider God, here are the other offenses against the path of devotion. So let's cover these 17 and make sure that we always keep them in mind when we are doing our bhakti. So we should never commit these offenses. One is to consider God as a minor deity among many deities. A lot of people confuse that. They look at God and they say, oh, this is minor, that one is major, this is this and that. So in other words, they discriminate between gods themselves, and that is not, it's an offense. It's not to be practiced. Number two, to look upon the Vedas as ordinary books written by mere authors. Vedas are authoritative. They came as revelations from the divine energy, so therefore they are to be revered, not to be looked with skepticism. Number three is to discriminate between devotees on the basis of caste. So in bhakti, there is no difference. Doesn't matter whether you're a pauper or a king. We are all children of God, and therefore no discrimination should be allowed. 4 is to regard a preceptor as an ordinary human being. And that is also an offense, because a lot of people really look at a guru as a body, and then they sometimes have discussions or keep on asking why, without having the humility and the understanding. So therefore, the role of a guru is very important on the path of Sanatan Dharma, and in this case, bhakti, to touch that glory. So, number 5, offense is to consider the divine action of divine incarnations as ordinary human beings, of those as Rama and Krishna. And in this material day and age, all these scientists and other people are bringing up all this kind of human logic into this equation. And so therefore all of those are offenses on the path of bhakti. Number 6 is to look upon the rasa dance of Lord Krishna as an ordinary amorous sport. We have already covered this in the previous sutra, to bring sexuality into divinity and spirituality. Sexuality has no role to play. It is all pure bhavana, emotions, and the higher value. So we should not consider those gopis to be having just wild flings with Krishna. Anybody who thinks like that is committing an offense also. Number 7 is to practice righteous acts with a doubtful mind. So when we, which means remove doubt, when we are, otherwise we are committing an offense that we are doing the bhakti but inwardly we are not sure if God is there, if He's listening to us, etc. So this one is easy to do during times of difficulties and when our prayers are not answered. We have to understand the divine energy is very high. There is, what's good for us is all we get. We will not get a knife if we are 6 months old. The mother will not let us have it because it will damage us. Similarly, when God doesn't give us something, there's a deeper meaning behind it. So to judge devotees based on external objects, that is number 8. So therefore, don't say externally how a devotee looks, by his clothes, by his attire, etc. Just look at the heart, and therefore that is number 8. Number 9 is to comment on the merits and demerits of sages and saints. As we have already touched upon before, sages and saints are not to be considered as human beings. They are agents, representatives of God, ambassadors of God doing divine work. So even though they may have faults and some merits, but we should not be discussing them, because it is all, that is, they are the ones guiding us, they are the ones taking us, lifting us. So therefore they are to be revered and not to be commented upon as to these are the good qualities or bad qualities, etc. In other words, that is worldly talk. So for saints and sages, we have to keep a different level of reverence. Number 10 is to possess a sense of superiority over others. So we should never feel, oh, he is not doing his part, but look at me, I'm waking up, I'm doing my puja, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm so much better. No, be thankful to God that you are consistently doing your effort, but don't criticize others or don't ever develop a sense of superiority. Everybody has to grow at a different level. A kindergartner can't go into a postgraduate program the next year. There's a certain progression, and we have also gone through that progression. So therefore there is no superiority or inferiority here. We should understand that. That's number 10. Number 11 is to indulge in amorous pursuits. So this is an extension of the Krishna Gopi concept we just talked about. So sometimes we think we are getting distracted, and we find some literature that is taking us, showing the human aspect, and we start getting amorous, and our thoughts start to get veering away towards worldly or sexual thoughts, and we should restrain that at that time, because that's not what divinity is about. We have to enjoy the prem ras. Prem is love, divine love. So that is we should make an effort for that. Number 12 is to take an intoxicating drug or liquor. That is to be prohibited. Do not try to change your state of mind artificially. So many people are trying to do that these days, and they are just damaging themselves, and they are also committing an offense. Number 13 is to place oneself in evil association. So evil association should be avoided at all costs, because that will quickly drag you down, pull you down. and that's an offense also. 14th is to lose one's temper. That is also an offense which many of us commit sometimes on a daily basis, and we should therefore try to understand, if we are trying to walk on this holy path, this is an offense that we should try to slowly curb. And bear insult, bear injury is a mantra that is very profound, not easy to implement, but we should always remember that, and slowly it will become easier. Number 15 is to swear by the name of one's chosen deity. So sometimes we get in agitated conversations with people, and then we sometimes say, I swear on that name, and I swear. That is not to be done for a true devotee, a true bhakta. Otherwise, it's an offense. Number 16 is to discriminate between devotees belonging to different sects. So that also many devotees do, that those people do this and that sect does this and this sect does this. There should be no time for a pure devotee to worry about all these things. And the 17th one, and that this is the last one, is to regard one form of the divine self as superior to another form, such as Rama superior to Krishna or vice versa, etc. And this is where so many religions get stuck, because they consider only their deity, their form, to be the most superior, and everybody else being inferior. I will not take names here, but many of you already know that there are so many of these so-called sects who are trying to compartmentalize themselves into just one deity or one form or one god, and therefore ignoring everything else, and that is not to be done. These are all offenses. So sadhana and dharma vyadha were butchers and did not belong to the high class of Brahmins. So that is important for us to know, that history and our scriptures are full of such examples where everybody was qualified to achieve God realization, mukti. Yet they rose to great spiritual heights, these people. Many sages and saints such as Vishwamitra, Vyasa, Jabala, Mahidasa, Namavallavar, Kanapar, Tukaram, they were not Brahmins by birth, but became giants in the spiritual field because of their effort and devotion. Dhruva, he was just a young boy when he attained great heights of devotion. Ashtavakra was terribly deformed. His body was deformed at 8 joints, having 8 bends in his body. Still, he was a great sage and guru of King Janaka. Sri Hanumanji was a monkey and Vibhishana a demon. Both were recipients of Rama's grace. Vidura and Sudama were poor without worldly possessions, yet the divinity accepted their offerings with great joy. So we have to get away from these different material things that we give so much value to. They are still practical realities, but for bhakti, para-bhakti, these are not criteria for judging people. Janaka, the king of Mithila, possessed great wealth but was internally free of all possessions. Enlightened, an enlightened sage. Sages of recent times like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Ramanna Maharishi, they lacked academic education, yet they were sources of great inspiration for men of tremendous scholarship and learning. So you see, all these things can happen with His grace, divine grace. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhyate girim, which means that the dumb can speak eloquently and lame can climb mountains with that grace. So there should be no ego, no thinking of superiority, etc. When God's grace falls, anything can happen, miracles can happen. See, in the words of Sri Tulsidas, Rama says to Shabri, Lord Rama, when he met Shabri, he said, "O lady, listen to my words. I know of only one type of relationship, and that is the relationship of devotion." Because Sabri said, "I'm a woman, I'm poor, I'm from a lower caste, oh God, will you accept me?" He says, I only accept devotion. I do not care for class, family, meritorious actions, fame, wealth, strength. In spite of all these, if a person does not possess devotion, he is like a rain cloud bereft of rain. So therefore, these qualities are good. They help us in the world, but they are not to be equated to bhakti. We need devotion first. The human personality is sanctified when it is able to experience the ever growing sentiment of divine love. The purpose of its existence is fulfilled when the spirit is immersed in that ocean of divine love. So we start experiencing the direct blessings and we enjoy the nectar of ocean of love. Without the awakening of divine love, all attainments of this world are mere vanity. So unless that love is overwhelming within us, we have not reached the destination. A perfected devotee becomes an Ati Varnashrami, one who goes beyond the restrictions and rules of caste and order. He has transcended it, while the rest of them still have to observe those limits. He sees God in all objects, even in those that are disgusting to human sight. He is above name and form, above looking pretty and ugly, etc. The reasons for rising beyond all external distinctions is given in the next sutra, which we will cover tomorrow. Om Tat Sat.